All right, before we join our next guest here on the program, the largest opposition party in the German parliament has kicked off its national convention. The AfD confirmed that Alice Friedel and Tino Kruppalla will remain party leaders. Now, both politicians are known for being strong critics of Berlin's military and financial support for Ukraine, among many other issues. However, thousands of protesters took to the streets to disrupt the party's assembly. Rioters clashed with police, chanting they oppose fascism. The AfD party rejects claims that it is extremist, saying the efforts of the demonstrators have little to do with democracy and are, quote, a last resort of political rivals. That view seems to be backed by recent reports in the German media, which claimed the left and Green parties had long planned to block the AfD's convention, while one trade union went even a step further, encouraging its members to get involved in the riots because, well, their transportation would be paid for. Now, the AfD has surged in popularity in recent years with its calls for strict rules on immigration and for Berlin to cut off unconditional aid to Ukraine. It describes its platform as national conservative and does seek to build a closer relationship with Russia. It also opposes NATO's influence on the country and argues Berlin would be better off withdrawing from the European Union. Well, let's take this conversation further now with Christopher Kofner, AfD Bavaria finance spokesperson and managing director for the Conservative Economic Policy Institute. Christopher, it's great to get you on the program here on RT. Welcome to it.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. What do you think, just off the top of your head, the protests, the overall rush to disrupt the AfD convention, are these just regular protesters or perhaps there's some help going on behind the scenes? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, peaceful protests are legitimate in any democracy. If parties, activists, or citizens disagree with the AfD, for example, they have every right to demonstrate. That is not the problem. The problem begins when left-wing extremists try to block, disrupt, or prevent a lawful party convention. This is, in my opinion, absolutely anti-democratic and shows a complete lack of democratic understanding. Party conventions are essential in a constitutional democracy. Parties must hold conventions to elect the leadership, to decide their policy, for members to express their views. This is not a luxury. This is essential in any part of democracy. But when extremists try to prevent the strongest opposition party from holding such a convention, they are attacking not only the AfD, they are attacking democracy itself.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy is enormous. They claim to fight fascism, but in reality, they use intimidation and blockade tactics against a legal democratic party.
Yeah, I mean, for so many years now, I've been watching the AfD very, very closely, Christopher, and particularly in recent years when it's really starting to surge in popularity. You see, there's been this concerted effort by the mainstream media and various other political figures in Europe to call the AfD ultra-right, radical, sometimes even fascist. Your thoughts on that, Christopher? Why this campaign against the AfD?
Well, I obviously reject those labels completely. They are just mere words. They're not serious descriptions. First of all, you have Germany's broadcasting system, ARD, ZDF, and so on. They are not neutral in practice. Their boards and structures are heavily influenced by the old parties, SPD, CDU, CSU, and Greens. It's not surprised that public broadcasting reflects the worldview of those governing parties. For them, the AfD is a threat for the political cartel. And then you have also legacy media, which are directly linked to those elites, political elites, economic elites, and obviously we're a threat to them. However, things are changing. First of all, you have new alternative media as News, Apollo News, and so on. They're getting far reaches. And also some legacy media, such as the Axel Springer Media Group, they are getting more open towards the AfD. And if you look at our program, you can see that we are the most democratic party within the party system of Germany. We're a party which calls for most of direct democratic decisions by citizens. And none other party demands that. And even if you look at our members of our party, you know, Alice Weidel, everyone knows she is a lesbian. We have party members who are black and African and Arab and so on. So obviously they are just labels. They try to legitimize us because we are now at 28, 29, 30%. They don't have arguments against our policy or against our program. So they try to call us names, but it doesn't work. As you see now already, we are the most popular party in the polls.
Yeah, meantime, Friedrich Merz's party is ranked among the lowest supported in the world. And, you know, you go back to Merz or of his ilk, any of his predecessors, frankly, Schultz, for example. We're talking about globalists. A lot of people call them globalists, catering to the global elite. They love the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and all that kind of stuff. But we keep seeing this effort to derail the AfD. But by the way, Christopher, why do so many members or candidates of the AfD keep dying? Seven members or candidates of the AfD died before local elections. Why do they keep dying, Christopher?
Well, that is a difficult question to answer. Maybe in the future, when we will be in government, we will find out more. But I can tell you something about the current coalition. Yes, as you said rightly, no one believed that a chancellor can be more unpopular than Olaf Scholz. But every time we learn anew that everything gets worse, and that it is unfortunately possible to get worse. Now, Merz is the most unpopular chancellor in German history. And he only has two options. He can lose or he can lose very much. He can either now, we will see within the next year or two that the coalition will break apart because, yes, they announced a so-called reform package, but this is not a real reform. It's just some very small cosmetic measures, and the rest, which they will not be able to bring it through with their coalition party, the SPD, which is very left-wing. So they could break apart, and if they call for new elections, the AfD will win. If they will clutch to each other, the SPD and the CDU, knowing that they are going to lose the elections, they might be able to wait until official elections in 2029, but then they will lose even more because in the next few years you will see so many new burdens, new taxes, new social burdens, new bureaucracy monsters coming from the European Union that their poll numbers will go even worse. They will become even worse, and the AfD will win even more. So Merz can only lose or lose much more.
Yeah, I think that's very, very well said. But, you know, Christopher, at the end of the day, it's always the everyday taxpayers who end up getting shafted, you know. And I think the people of Germany, that was the industrial powerhouse of Europe, that's now essentially been deindustrialized. By the way, is it Volkswagen or Mercedes or Porsche? They want to start making weapons now for Ukraine because there's more money in making weapons than is actually in selling cars. Now, I get it. China has already kind of cornered the automotive industry, especially in Europe. But nonetheless, I wanted to ask you, so these car makers, they're looking to make more money by veering off into other aspects. But it was Merz. He's reiterated his support for doubling the German defense budget within 4 years at a time when he's also saying get ready for a war with Russia, 2029, 2030. We hear the globalists talking about get ready for a war with Russia by 2030. Can I ask you, Christopher, what does the average German taxpayer feel about that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, the rearmament policy is very popular in Germany, but only with one group, the arms industry. Rheinmetall and other defense companies, they are booming. The share prices and order books have exploded. We're talking about contracts, in some cases, potentially over 100 billion euros. For these corporations, the war in Ukraine is a business model. And also for the finance sector. You know, Merz, he was a former head of the German BlackRock group. And unfortunately, you cannot see who owns the German debt. But we know that American funds such as BlackRock Group and Vanguard, they own about 20-25% of the German DAX. And I think they own similar amounts of the German debt. And obviously, they are making a business for their life. On the other hand, the real population, the taxpayers, they are not so amused by this. Even if you look at the recent poll by the Bild Welt, which is a very pro-American newspaper, even their polls show that 38% of Germans, they still fear a Russian attack on Germany, but over 50% do not believe this narrative anymore. And the numbers are climbing who are not believing this. We are now spending over 11 billion euros each year on Ukraine, which is about several million euros each day, which are spending. And as I said, this has to be financed by new taxes. And as time goes on, we will see that this will only aid, unfortunately, the AfD, unfortunately for Germany, I mean, and it will stop soon.
You mentioned Ukraine a moment ago, Christopher. Just quickly, I'll let you get out of here after this one, mate, and I'm running really low on time. But the German Federal Prosecutor's Office has charged a Ukrainian national with sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline, saying he acted on behalf of the government in Kiev. I mean, to me, it just reeks of this guy being hung out to dry like a scapegoat, like a sacrificial lamb. But would you expect anything to come of this? What would you like to see happen?
You say it absolutely right. I do not expect anything of this. This is just a show trial. It might be true that Ukrainians indeed enacted this terrorist attack, but just the fact that it was not investigated really for 4 years tells you a lot. That the German government didn't do anything about it. We are still financing, as I said, Ukraine with 11 billion euros each year, which is money which we need for our own economy, for our own citizens, and we all know basically that obviously. Nothing will happen, nothing will change from that. If another country attacks your own strategic infrastructure, you would say, well, at least we would stop paying them money for destroying our own country, our own infrastructure. And obviously, we know that it was at least allowed by the CIA and American deep state to attack our own infrastructure. And just one number will give you the reason for this. In 2019, we imported 40% of our natural gas from Russia at half the price. Now we import 48% of natural gas from the United States. So this tells you the whole reason why Nord Stream was.
Yeah, but at many times the price. But at many times the price, right? It was half price from Russia. Now it's multiple times.
Yes, exactly.
Because America's your friend, Christopher. Your friend, overcharging you any which way it can. But let's not forget, BFFs, best friends forever. Christopher Kofner, it's so good to get you on the program. AfD Bavaria finance spokesperson and managing director for the Conservative Economic Policy Institute. Christopher, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.